If you thought the new 2026 F1 regulations were going to shake up the grid, you are absolutely right, but maybe not the way you expected. The Australian Grand Prix was just delivered an absolute masterclass from Mercedes, a chaotic grid recovery and massive heartbreaks for the home crowd. Let's break it down. Behind the Silver Arrows, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc managed to salvage a podium, holding off charging Lewis Hamilton, who finished right on his gearbox in P4. But driver of the day has got to be Max Verstappen after a nightmare qualifying session that forced him to start all the way back in P20. Max sliced his way through the field like a man possessed, fighting all the way to P6 to secure crucial championship points. Now let's talk about the local heartbreak. Aussie fans were devastated before the lights even went out. Oscar Piastri suffered a brutal did not start along with Nico Hülkenberg. Red Bull's new signing, Isaac Hadjar, crashed out early, and Valtteri Bottas and Fernando Alonso adding to the DNF list later in the race. And Albert Park proved once again that it takes no prisoners. The top three of the Australian Grand Prix. First was George Russell with Mercedes. Second was Kimi Antonelli with Mercedes as well, 1-2 for Mercedes. And third in the Ferrari was Charles Leclerc. 2026 Chinese Grand Prix race report. The story of the weekend belonged to entirely Mercedes. Phenomenal rookie Andrea Kimi Antonelli, starting from pole position, the young Italian drove a flawless race to claim his first ever Formula 1 victory. Mercedes asserted total dominance over the field, securing a massive 1-2 finish. George Russell followed his teammate home in P2, 5.5 seconds back, while Lewis Hamilton completed the podium lockout in P3 in the Ferrari. Midfield chaos and point scorers. Behind the Silver Arrow, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc fell just short of a podium, bringing his car home in a lonely P4. Further back, the race saw brilliant performances from some of the sport's younger talents. Oliver Bearman put on a spectacular show to cross the line in P5 for Haas. Liam Lawson made significant progress from P14 on the grid to finish an impressive P7. Rookie Isaac Hadjar bounced back from his Melbourne heartbreak to claim his first points of the season in P8. Now time for drama, DNFs and DNS heartbreak. The Shanghai circuit claims several high-profile victims. The most devastating blow hit Max Verstappen, whose Red Bull suffered a critical mechanical failure, forcing him into a DNF on lap 45 while running into the points. Joining him on the retirement list were veterans Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Even before the lights went out, the grid was severely depleted. A shocking string of pre-race technical issues meant 4 drivers didn't even start the race. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Gabriel Bortoleto and Alexander Albon. The 2026 Japanese Grand Prix at the iconic Suzuka circuit provided high-speed drama, strategy masterclass and a breakthrough recovery from a slow start to the season for McLaren. Mercedes wonderkid Kimi Antonelli completely dominated the weekend from the front. Starting from pole position, the young Italian controlled the race from start to finish, managing his tyres perfectly to take the checkered flag. The victory marked a massive statement of intent as he continued his sensational form in the 2026 championship. McLaren strikes back after a painful start to the year, plagued by reality issues and pre-race technical disasters. In Melbourne and Shanghai, McLaren finally found their footing. Oscar Piastri put together a stunning drive from P3 on the grid to finish a strong P2, splitting the Mercedes cars and bringing home the McLaren's first major haul of silverware for the season. Teammate Lando Norris backed it up with a solid P5 finish. Podiums and recoveries. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc grabbed the final step of the podium, just holding off the second Mercedes of George Russell. After a tense late race technical battle further down the order, Red Bull's Max Verstappen salvaged an underwhelming qualifying session, started from P11. He executed a steady recovery drive through the legendary corners of the Suzuka circuit to cross the line in P8, minimising the damage to his championship campaign. Late race heartbreak and retirements. Suzuka's high-speed layout and unforgiving barriers claimed two victims late in the race. Aston Martin's Lance Stroll crashed out on lap 23, while Haas driver Oliver Bearman suffered a painful DNF on lap 33, ending what was shaping up to be a promising midfield run. The podium for that Grand Prix was Kimi Antonelli first, yet again, Oscar Piastri in second, and Charles Leclerc rounding off the podium spots. The Miami 2026 Grand Prix delivered another absolute thriller under the Florida sun, cementing a massive shift in the championship narrative as the grid adjusted to the new era of F1 regulations. Antonelli makes it 3 in a row. The sensational performance of the Mercedes rookie Andrea Kimi Antonelli continued as the young Italian held his nerve to claim a spectacular victory. Starting from pole position, Antonelli faced immense early pressure in a three-way drag race to turn 1, alongside Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. After surviving the chaotic opening exchanges, Antonelli managed to race beautifully to absorb late race pressure and secure his third consecutive win of the 2026 F1 season. McLaren's double podium charge. McLaren proved that their performance boost in Japan was no fluke. Lando Norris drove an outstanding race, keeping Antonelli completely honest in the closing stages to finish a close P2, just 3.2 seconds behind the Silver Arrow. The papaya party was completed by Oscar Piastri, who backed up his teammate to cross the line in a lonely but brilliant P3, bringing home a massive double podium for McLaren as they emerged as Mercedes' main challengers on race pace. Battle of the teammates. Behind the top three, George Russell fought hard enough through the field, executing several sharp late race overtakes to claim P4. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc picked up P5, while Lewis Hamilton rounded out relatively quiet afternoon in P6. Further back, Haas rookie Oliver Bearman narrowly missed out on points, bringing his car home in a highly consistent P11. The podium for this race was first, yet again, Kimi Antonelli, second, Lando Norris for McLaren, and rounding off the podium places is Oscar Piastri for the 2-3 of the McLarens. The 2026 Canadian Grand Prix at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve was an absolute weekend of attraction, featuring high-profile crashes, shocking retirements, and a massive shake-up to the championship standings. The front row meltdown and Mercedes drama. George Russell put his Mercedes on pole position with a blistering lap in qualifying and looked possessed to control the race. However, Montreal took no prisoners. On lap 31, Russell suffered a catastrophic retirement, throwing the race wide open for his rookie teammate Kimi Antonelli. Capitalised perfectly. Starting from P2, the young Italian kept his composure through changing the track conditions and intense pressure behind to claim yet another victory, firmly stamping his authority on the 2026 season. Hamilton holds off Verstappen. With Russell out, the battle for the remaining podium spots turned into a heavyweight clash. Lewis Hamilton delivered a masterful defence drive to cross the line in P2, securing a Mercedes 1-2 finish that seemed unlikely mid-race. Midfield heroes. With so much chaos up front, the middle drivers feasted on the remaining points. Isaac Hadjar put in a masterclass to guide his car home for a brilliant P5, while the Williams of Franco Colapinto earned a massive praise by fighting up to a highly impressive P6. 2026 Canadian Grand Prix final results. First, yet again, was Kimi Antonelli. Second was Lewis Hamilton. And third, rounding out the final positions on the podium, was Max Verstappen. The 2026 Monaco Grand Prix was an absolute festival of attraction, plenty of drama and pure chaos on the streets of Monte Carlo, concluding with a historic masterclass at the front. Antonelli makes history. Mercedes sensation Andrea Kimi Antonelli drove a flawless race from pole position to become the youngest ever Monaco Grand Prix winner in history. Despite being interrupted by multiple safety cars and a late red flag, the 19-year-old rookie remained completely unflappable, nailing every single restart to secure his fifth consecutive victory of the 2026 season. The chaos and red flag. While Antonelli controlled the front, the tight street circuits caused absolute mayhem behind him. Grid stall heartbreak. Max Verstappen suffered a critical technical issue right at lights out, stalling the grid and recovering a devastating opening lap DNF. Late red flag. On lap 60, Lance Stroll crashed heavily at the final corners to bring out a safety car. Shortly after the restart, local hero Charles Leclerc suffered an identical crash at turn 19, damaging the track surface and forcing a full red flag stoppage. A massive chunk of the grid fell victim to the pit lane speeding penalties. The most severely punished was George Russell, running in net P4. His team failed to serve an intentional time penalty correctly, resulting in a late race drive-through penalty that dropped him to P12. The podium for this Grand Prix was yet again Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly rounding out the podium. The Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix delivered a masterclass performance, with Lewis Hamilton securing a vantage victory ahead of George Russell at Mercedes. The race was a brutal test of reliability, resulting in a staggering number of DNFs. High-profile retirements included Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, championship leader Kimi Antonelli and home favourite Fernando Alonso. In first for the 2026 Barcelona Grand Prix was Lewis Hamilton, and in second his former teammate George Russell, and in third Lando Norris. The 2026 Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring was a high-temperature thriller that ended in a dramatic three-way fight to the finish line, tightening up the World Championship battle. Russell's Ring Masterclass. Starting from pole position, Mercedes driver George Russell put together a flawless, ice-cold drive across all 71 laps, despite a blistering track temperatures and intense pressure. Russell perfectly managed his tyres to secure his second victory of the 2026 season. And the podium in first was George Russell, second Max Verstappen, and rounding off the podium in third, Kimi Antonelli. And last but not least was the British Grand Prix. At Silverstone, delivered one of the most breathtaking, nail-biting finishes in recent memory, with the top 5 drivers crossing the line with us separated by mere seconds. It ended on a safety car, but it didn't bring down the vibes. The podium was Charles Leclerc, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton rounding it out. Thank you for watching, guys. Please consider liking and subscribing. That was a mid-season review for beginners.